Hey, how's it going? This is Eric from All Things Floor. In today's video, we're going to be covering a topic that comes up pretty often when speaking about bamboo floors or most wood floor types, and that is how bamboo floors interact with water. And most people ask the question, is it okay for bamboo floors to get wet? From things like water, from other liquid substances, juices, things that happen when you have kids in your house. So in today's video, we're going to be answering that question. We're also going to talk about some of the effects that happen to your floor, some of the things that happen to floors or bamboo floors when they get wet, and some additional topics that should help to figure out what to do if that happens. So generally speaking, it is okay for bamboo floors to get wet. I say generally because you'll want to make sure that any sort of liquid substance is cleaned up as quickly as possible. So long term, and if water is sitting on your floor or wet substances are sitting on your floor for periods that are up to a few hours, 8, 16, 24 hours, the longer they're on your floor, the more critical it is to clean it up. The longer they're on your floor, the more likely it is for something to happen. So bamboo floors are typically not an option that are recommended for rooms like your bathroom, in basements where there are high levels of humidity, in kitchens where you expect for there to be a large amount of spills. Again, not to say that this is the case for everyone, but in most cases and for most types of bamboo floors, it's important to think about the space where your floors are going to be in before making your decision on whether installing is the right move, or installing this particular type is the right move. Assuming that you've made the decision to move forward with bamboo floors, want to give you some information related to what happens to bamboo floors under wet conditions, or if they were to get wet. There are really 5 major things that could happen, things you'll have to consider. And again, this depends very much on the bamboo flooring type. So the primary thing is really discoloration. The first thing that you'll see if, say, a few droplets of water or a tiny puddle of water builds up on your floor without being cleaned up for, say, 24 to 48 hours, is you're going to see that portion of your floor start to get discolored. And it'll look a little bit different from the rest of the floor. So you're going to want to avoid that as much as possible. You want to keep a consistent look with your bamboo floors across whatever room it's in. So that's one of the primary things that you can expect to happen if left for long periods of time. Another interesting thing that could happen is you can start to see some denting or warping. So in that particular area, again, thinking about how dense the spill is, you can actually start to see dips in your floor in the area where water has built up over time. So this could be, especially, concerning if you have children or pets who are prone to sort of tripping over these things and potentially getting hurt. Again, not a huge deal, not something that happens really often, but still one of the things that can happen. Another sort of impact that water and other liquid substances can have on your bamboo floors is you can start to see it swell. And when enough water has sort of interacted with the bamboo floors and has sort of seeped into the structure of the bamboo floors, you'll see it start to swell and potentially crack. So again, just another effect related to just the quality of the floor. So you don't want to see these huge cracks happening in the middle of your floors. You want to keep it as pristine as possible. So again, avoiding water in your floor should help to avoid those kinds of things like cracking and swelling of your floors. And on the opposite side, you could also have shrinking. So, assuming that the floors swell but never really get to a point of cracking, you can see the opposite effect happen where they shrink to a point where your floors start to shift and move. And while this typically won't affect the look of your floors, it will affect the structure. So, you'll have your plank shifting, which will then lead to potentially noisy floors. So, if you're on in a home with more than one story and your bamboo floor is on your second floor, you might start to hear some crinking that you'll hear downstairs. So the primary things you should be concerned about, when it comes to water or other wet substances coming in contact with your bamboo floors are, again, discoloration, denting and warping, swelling and cracking, shrinking and shifting, and your floor is potentially getting noisy. But again, if you're able to avoid the water or liquid substances sitting for long periods of time, should generally be pretty okay. Now, let's assume that the damage is already done. Depending on how long the substance was sitting on your floors, one of these 5 things happened, and now you're trying to figure out what your next steps are. So it's important to note that not in every case are you going to have to completely replace your floors. So I really generally recommend 3 things to look at. If it's a scratch or a warping, a bit of warping, or a bit of discoloration, typically if the wear layer of your bamboo floors is a little bit thicker, or you have the opportunity to refinish, I think that's your best option. In that way you sort of keep the same floors that you purchased and installed. You're doing a bit of a refinishing just to get the same look that you were expecting when you initially installed. So some of the smaller changes and impacts that water or liquid substances have had on your floor can be dealt with a simple refinishing. Second, rather than replacing the entire floor, I'd recommend just replacing the planks that have changed, or the planks that have seen damage. Many cases, and depending on the installation method for how you installed your floors, sometimes it's okay to just take out the planks that you've seen the most damage to, or that have the most visible damage, and just replace those individual planks as opposed to removing your entire floor. In instances where you've purchased floors that have a very thin wear layer, so I'll give you an example. Normally, when you think of bamboo floors, you think of the most natural bamboo floors, which are those that are solid bamboo, and those come in both vertical and horizontal. And the benefit of those is that you'll be able to refinish those a few times, because most of the layers, as you can see here, will allow you to get sort of the same look as you refinish or sand down. Strand woven bamboo, which is just engineered in a separate way and sort of presses fibers together, can also be refinished. So if you have strand woven bamboo floors, you can see this on the packaging before your purchase, or if you've already purchased, if you saved any kind of information like receipt, you'll see it says strand woven. This is applying high heat to the bamboo material, which allows you to still get sort of a really dense structure, strong structure, durable structure, and then refinish again over time. The one bamboo flooring type that may be a little bit harder to refinish, and where we might be talking about more lengthy repair scenarios where you might have to do bigger replacements, are engineered bamboo floors. Now, engineered bamboo floors have a layer of there's typically a different wood material or some kind of composite, so something that isn't bamboo, while the top layer is typically your bamboo layer. So I would say maybe 60 to 70% of the sample I'm holding here is non-bamboo, and that's really just to help with the structure of the floor. So if you're looking for durability, engineered bamboo is great for you. But when it comes to instances where you've got to do some refinishing, you'll notice that engineered bamboo have the thinnest layer of bamboo. So as you sand down over and over, you might have less opportunities to do sanding than you would otherwise with other bamboo flooring types. So if you aren't able to refinish, a small area, if you aren't able to just replace the plank, and you might be looking at a scenario with a much larger sort of job to replace most of your floor. So this is in the case where something like a pipe burst and flooding happens, or some kind of natural disaster like a hurricane brings flood water into your home, or some kind of storm surge. So it's very rare that would happen. Either way, in all of these instances, and whatever the damage is from water, definitely recommend seeking advice from a professional, just so he can have another, or she can have another set of eyes on the floors before making any decisions. By all means, if you're looking for more information related to bamboo floors, how they interact with liquid substances and water, we've got plenty more information on our website at allthingsfloor.com. Below in the description, I'll go ahead and link the article so you can go and see additional information that'll be helpful. Other than that, till next time.